This three-bean casserole is dumb.
I'm so sorry, babe. I hadn't tasted him yet.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Looking forward to, you know. Like,
don't talk about the ingredients. I know. Yeah.
After, it's just a surprise for your mouth.
yeah.
Welcome back to Thinking Critical. This is Wes. Now, yesterday I talked about how DC Comics essentially flooded this fifth release week of November with Batman comics, and how could a story like Action Comics get noticed? And it is very disappointing because it turns out this week's Action Comics is absolutely loaded with action, consequences, a lot of big things popping for Clark Kent, Superman, and the Authority that have joined him on his trek to Warworld in their confrontation with the new Mongol to free the slaves of Warworld. I've read a lot of DC Comics today. I had no plans of actually reviewing any of them. I was getting ready mostly for This Week in Batman with Josh tomorrow because there's so many Batman comics. I made sure and read Action Comics number. What number is it? I can't remember the number right now. Oh my goodness. I'm going to have to find it. Action Comics number 1037. And there's enough going on here, and it's of enough quality that I had to talk about it. So I wanted to do this video today, get it out there, and I do want to say there are going to be major spoilers, and I do major spoilers. We lose multiple characters in this comic book right here. There are a lot of ramifications for this initial confrontation between Superman and his team, mostly comprised of the Authority, some classic members there, and some new members thrown in. Some theories have been confirmed. Obviously, they won't play out exactly how people thought, but this is a high-stakes, high-impact comic book. Phillip Kennedy Johnson has been doing a good job on action since he started doing this Warworld thing, as they've been breaking up Clark Kent and John Kent. This has definitely been the superior Superman comic since the introduction of Superman Son of Kal-El. It hasn't even been close. But it really steps up the game here today. And the art by Miguel Mendoza is, I think he announces his presence with the Authority. I first noticed him, obviously, on Justice League Last Ride with Chip Zdarsky. I thought the art was fantastic. It's one of the things I noticed. And I certainly echoed here on the channel, was like, wow, I don't remember seeing this artist, but this is fantastic. He's done the last couple of issues of the Action Comics, and this is definitely the high spot. And he has earned some bigger gigs moving forward. Let's just put it that way. Obviously, we're going to get to these details. So I think this is fantastic. It's not a highest recommendation. It's not like 5-star, but it's damn close. Like we're on the precipice. This is probably a comic book that's in the running for my top 10 comic book issues of 2021. Just putting that out there. So I have a lot of high praise for this. Let's get into it. Let's get these spoilers out of the way and talk about what makes this thing so amazing. If you don't like spoilers, this is not the review for you. You need to walk away, because I'm going to talk about some major stuff here. If you like this story and you're like, well, when's a good time to get it? Just go back. What issue? It's the very first issue of the Warworld Saga. This is issue number 2 of the story arc, and jump in there. If you really like it and you can't get enough, then start moving backwards. I think you'll be happy. Let's get into this. I got to talk about this good stuff. First up, we have to talk about the art from Miguel Mendoza, who absolutely noticed the very first issue of Justice League Last Ride. It was fantastic all the way through. This is a highly kinetic, it's an explosive comic book issue, and he takes full advantage. This thing is absolutely moving the whole way through. He's got a good idea on visual storytelling. He moves your eyes as you're walking through the story. There are a lot of monsters. There are a lot of high impact moments in here, and he does a great job highlighting those. There are a couple of double page spreads here that are absolutely fantastic. You see this one here. This is the first blow from Superman 2, the new Mongol, as we have a couple other side confrontations all going on at the same time. We get this giant snake eating this lady, and there are all kinds of weird monsters and stuff going on here. And Miguel Mendoza gets to pop his tail feathers. You know what I'm saying? He really gets to show off who he is. And I think if he This should be a career-making comic book issue, in my opinion. We're going to talk a little bit more about the art later on because it just warrants it. But as you can see here, great panel layouts. He's doing a great job highlighting the characters, the action, everything. Miguel Mendoza needs to be a major player in DC Comics moving forward. Now let's get into the story. We start off, it's actually bookended by some politics, which I'll get at the end, but we need to get into the Superman and the Authority confrontation. You see that giant scorpion with the light thing in its mouth, that is the beast that the new Mongol is riding. We have a couple other formidable characters on the ground. You see that thing with the horns on its head. It turns out that's actually being controlled, I believe, by that lady with the magic coming out of her hands. And then there's that enormous mechanical thing that is also being controlled by that guy with the big head. These things are all learned along the way. It's a very good way to start off this confrontation. And after you see this page, shit hits the fan. It is balls to the wall action for the most part, all the way through, except for a couple of pretty decent character moments. And there are some major consequences for Superman and his team that he has brought with him to Warworld. Specifically, the biggest one is going to be, we see the end, or it looks like we've seen the end of Apollo as he was challenging that monster with the horns. Turns out that monster could take a direct hit from Apollo. He was shrugged off. Apollo goes in for another blow. It does not go well for him, and he takes what appears to be some type of saber attached to that monster's arm. He puts it right through his sternum. Apollo is with us no more. As you can imagine, this drives Midnighter absolutely insane. But Midnighter is not the only character to lose a loved one in here. We see the demise of Leah. If you are not sure who that character is, or you are not familiar, that is the partner of the new Omok. Terrible design on Omok. I'm not going to sugarcoat that one for you. That one absolutely sucks. It looks bad here. It looks bad with everybody that's worked with that character. That was introduced in Grant Morrison's Superman and the Authority. I believe Phillip Kennedy Johnson, Miguel Mendoza, Ricardo Federici, and the other people working on this Action Comics were stuck with that. Sometimes you got to take chicken shit makes chicken salad. What you going to do? So we see the demise of Leah. We also see the magic wielder that they have on the team, Junie, also falls. So we have 3 members of the team following Superman on his quest to free these slaves, all die within a matter of pages. Absolutely, the consequences are raised, the stakes are raised, and blood is being spilled left and right. They're having some victories. I don't want to sell the team short. They're having their victories here and there, but for the most part, they are getting it handed to them. And you know what it is? Their asses handed to them left and right. We do get this wonderful page, and I got to show off some more Miguel Mendoza art. This is another double page splash. As we see that character Leah fall, you can see that enormous mechanical beast that is also carrying like a really creepy baby. Great job on Miguel Mendoza because he made that thing look terrifying. It looked like it should have been in a horror movie. And you can see the look of despair, the look of loss on the face of Omok. As I said, she loses it. And we see Superman, Clark Kent, realizing the consequences of his actions, of bringing these people along with him to go free the slaves of Warworld, who, during their confrontation, Mongols kind of mocking him, saying that my slaves are calling for me to murder you. They like what their plight is, kind of thing. And Superman tries to do the right thing. He tries to console Leah. Don't try to speak, we kid. She says, don't be mad at them, Superman. They just don't get who you are yet. They will, though. You're going to say them all, talking about the slaves. Obviously, I was just mentioning that with Mongol. I hope you're proud of me. I'm sorry I couldn't. And then we obviously lose a character. She was dropping a few tears as she goes away. Look at the emotion in the face of Clark Kent. I don't love the gray hair. That's another thing that was introduced in Superman and the Authority. I don't think Phillip Kennedy Johnson had a choice. But if you don't get distracted by that gray hair, look at that bottom right facial. Look at the pure emotion, agony on the face of Clark Kent, as he's lost a few members of his team, has a tender goodbye moment with Leah. This is fantastic. These are good character moments. This is how you do it as far as comic books. If you're a comic book fan, this is what you're waiting for. This is what you came here to read. Moments like this that are impactful, that drive the story forward, but the stakes are raised. There is loss in this story. And these aren't the only characters that we lose. We do get a very hard-fought confrontation between Superman and Mongol. It turns out that there is no star around Warworld, and Mongol explains that the way that the planet is heated and inhabitable is that there are large, like, warship-sized generators underneath the surface that are creating the same radiation that you would get from a red sun. He takes an axe and he is able to cut Superman in the abdomen. So Superman, is depowered. He's not operating on full capacity. And in fact, there's radiation from a red sun that is actually powering this planet. It turns out he is very vulnerable. He did not see this coming. Nobody did. And he ends up taking a spear through the chest and impaled by Mongol in front of everybody. And you can see the character cloaked in shadow as he's been lost. Everyone realizes what's happened. There are a few members of his team still left up there fighting the good fight, but their leader has fallen. This is, this isn't Death of Superman, but it wasn't billed to be as Death of Superman, but it still is impactful. It's an amazing visual. Not an amazing in a good way. It definitely made my stomach drop a little bit seeing it. I don't like seeing a character like Superman treated like this. Obviously, that's all for the purpose of the story. I imagined, we've seen what Future State was, where Mongol was murdering Clark Kent over and over and then resurrecting, like resuscitating him, bringing him back alive so we can murder him again. I don't know if that's where we're at with this story. But there's your moment. Superman is dead. Clark Kent has been taken out of the DC Comics universe. His quest to free Warworld was in vain. What's interesting is at the beginning, the United Planets, the intergalactic governing body that was essentially put together by his son, John, when he returned with the Legion of Superheroes, right? Or when he was selected to join the Legion of Superheroes. That's right. Brian Michael Bendis is saying that's where the United Planets came from. And they knew about this, and they deliberated, and they decided they did not want to go and intervene and side with Superman, that they wanted to wait it out. They said Superman's undefeatable, and we will go in and we will help out after Superman liberates the world, and then we will figure out what to do with the freed people. So they decided not to aid him in this. And there is definitely one character, this man in the bottom left panel, that's being yelled at. He's the head of the table. He certainly seems to have had nefarious motivations and was manipulating the other members of the United Planets into waiting it out, basically guaranteed Superman's going to win anyway. And it did not go out in their favor. As you could see, there are Thetagarians, and everybody's pissed off about what happened. They can't believe that they didn't go and support Superman, and now he has fallen. Their greatest ally in the universe, in the galaxy of the United Planets, is no longer living, has died at the hands of Mongol of Warworld. Obviously, this political thing that bookends this story is going to play out. I think there's another 2 pages in the middle that happened there, but this is being put in there for a reason. This is obviously being set up to have that character in the bottom left as some type of ally, a Mongol that was manipulating the council. And, it was in the guise of, we don't want him to come and take our worlds if he wins. Now that Superman's not there, who's going to stop him? who's going to stop Mongul from going and taking their world? So I think he's pretty much screwed them all over and sentenced their people to death, or likely a lifetime of slavery in the pits, fighting, to entertain Mongol and his people. Very impactful comic book, executed at a very high level. If Miguel Mendoza doesn't end up being a superstar at DC Comics within the next year or two, they have no one to blame. He has no one to blame but DC Comics. He has done what he has to do. He illustrated a highly impactful, very big issue that I think once people find out what this is and they find out what the quality of this is, if you get a chance, go out and buy this comic book. I don't think you're going to be disappointed. Nobody wants to see Superman die. I get that. But this thing is executed at a very high level, and it's certainly portending more exciting adventures, the return of Superman and his ultimate victory eventually by the end of Warworld Saga. I think a lot of people are going to be kicking themselves that they missed out on this comic book. Miguel Mendoza deserves to be elevated as a premier artist at DC Comics. They'll be fools if they don't do that, and they will have no one to blame but themselves, because he has put in the work, and Phillip Kennedy Johnson gave him the script in which to execute it. And he certainly did. He did everything in his power to make Phillip Kennedy Johnson's story sing. I do not, Phillip Kennedy Johnson is one of the writers that we highlighted here on the channel, Perch and myself, as one of the writers to really look out for. We were very impressed with his work on The Last God. Certainly his work on Action Comics has been very good. Even the short amount of work he did on Superman was high quality. It was certainly a breath of fresh air compared to the Bendis. I do not believe right now the sales are there, and that is very disappointing, because I think a lot of Superman fans would enjoy this story, would enjoy the execution that they're getting here far more than they're getting anywhere else other than Superman 78. And that's too bad, because there's a damn good Superman comic book out there, and there's a damn good Superman issue this week. Hopefully it is not overwhelmed and snuffed out of life by all the Batman comics that came out this week. And there are a lot of other big events that happen in those comic books. I'm not all the way through them. I've read a lot of them. There are a lot of monumental events. They even announced another big event in 2022 featuring some characters that I know a lot of us like. So it is going to be hard for this comic book to get the recognition that it deserves this week. But please, if you get the chance, I think you're going to love this one. It's not a happy-go-lucky. It's not a comic book that's going to make you smile, but it will make an impact, and that's important. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like. I would appreciate it very much. It helps us attract more views for the channel. Subscribe for future commentary, comic book news, and reviews. And don't forget to ring the bell for notifications. If you want to talk comics, movies, and much, much more, you can follow me on Twitter at Wes_from_TC. With that, Salamat Po, and I'm out.